Hey, so Jeff, some people in chat are asking about this, and I wanted to ask you about it. Did you read that Phil Spencer interview with Kotaku?
A little bit.
Did you see that?
I got the snippets. I got a little bit.
Yeah.
What about it?
Well, everyone's talking about this because there's the big moment where they ask him, like, is it possible to recoup a 7.5 billion investment if you don't sell Elder Scrolls 6 on the PlayStation? And then Phil Spencer very quickly answers yes. And then he has more to
Yes.
say, but like, a lot of people took this as like, oh, it's confirmed then that Bethesda games won't be on PlayStation, which just seemed like a bizarre like leap to
Right.
me.
Yeah. So my take on this is similar to what you were suggesting there, where it's like he is answering the question that was asked to him, which is it possible to recoup this without putting it on PlayStation? Yes. And let's so he they probably thought about this before. It's like, what if we're in a situation where we buy this stuff and we want to release on PlayStation, but for some reason Sony gets weird about it and stops us? Like, that's a possibility, right?
Hmm.
Maybe they don't want us on there or something like that. It's something like that could happen. Chances are no, but it could. So, are we still going to go through with this? How would this work? It's like, yes, this is corporations don't think about like spending money the way we spend money. When you spend money on something, if you have like a small business and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to spend some money and hopefully I can recoup that cost immediately. That money, Microsoft's money is sitting in a couple of accounts. They invest in stuff, and that money is working for them by making interest. It's generating interest. If they could spend money on buying Bethesda and that produces a profit that is slightly greater than that interest that they would have gotten from some other investment, then that is that money working for them in a more efficient way. They are not thinking about making back the entire $7.5 billion right away. They are thinking of a better way to put that $7.5 billion towards something so that it begins generating a revenue stream that is going to last for years and years. So that's when he's so sure and he says yes immediately, that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about like, oh, we need to recoup that $7.5 billion immediately. I just spent a lot of Satya Nadella's
Right.
money, and he's gonna be mad if he finds out. We got to put that money back before someone notices. That's not how it works at
No.
all. So
Right. I,
yeah.
I was surprised. I didn't realize that, like, because, like, I guess it was kind of a big, like, theory point for a lot of people about why they would be, like, why Bethesda games would be on PlayStations. Because, like, well, they have to make their money back. And if I knew that, I would have said earlier, like, that's not really the case. Like, again, even if, like, they needed to make that money back in 10 years, I think they could have make that back just on Xbox and PC. And even if
Right.
not, but that's not really how it works, anyways. Like you said, later on, it was kind of interesting just because Phil Spencer kind of made it sound like the Microsoft support on Nintendo is probably not going to keep happening, at least, or
Right.
if it is going to keep happening, it's going to be like what we've seen, very small Ori kind of stuff.
Right.
But
I think and
he
that,
he
that's he said that
and
before. Now
it's
he's
been in
repeating.
line.
Yeah.
Like the whole mo there is that they don't like the fact that like they don't have things like trophies and Xbox Live and whatnot
Right.
on that platform. Well, they kind of have trophies, don't they? But I guess Xbox Live and all that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that, I think that's a slight bummer, but I think it's also just kind of the way this is going, where when you start getting all these games and you start spending all this money and you start looking around the best way to maximize that investment, maybe it is about like really encouraging people to embrace the Microsoft ecosystem, and maybe that requires keeping things slightly more close to your vest than you would have otherwise. um I think like when you're not like keeping Cuphead on your system and you're not keeping Ori on your system, part of that to me that feels like building for the future, where like you want to make sure that those games have like a big audience and can go on something like Switch and like really appeal to a lot of people, so that the next time, it feels like kind of what Sony's doing with their games on PC, and like everyone's like, oh,
Horizon,
but
right?
Horizon, and like, because Horizon 2 is going to be coming out, and like if you want to play that right away, you'll have to get a PS5. It feels
Mm.
pretty similar to that. So, it seems like a pretty smart strategy. But I, to me, yeah. So Phil Spencer answered that question in that very specific way. But to me, it does feel like the winds are blowing in the direction of these games are probably still going to be exclusive, if not forever, at least a timed exclusive.
Hmm.
So we'll just have to see. I mean, that's kind of what they did with Ori, right? So maybe that's their plan for these big games as well.